All right, today I'm working on the drawer fronts. I've got the face of the board planed, and I've got one good edge. It's basically finished quality at this point. It's almost a finished surface. I'll do a little bit of cleaning up on specific areas, but I have like tiny little bit of tear out there. And then here, nope, actually no. Yeah, I might need to, but this is gonna be a seamless drawer front basically, but I'll divide up into 3. So it'll have continuous grain. And what I like to do for this is I like to have my bottom edge be as constant as possible. And so I've got that basically perfect and ready to go. Then what I'll do is I'll lay out and cut the different drawer fronts to length with a little bit of extra on them, but not much. And I'll make sure that if I'm going to remove any length, it'll be on the edge outside of the continuation of the grain. So if I'm going to remove length off this side, off the one drawer over here, it's going to be on the outside, not between the middle. And then over here, it'll be on the end on this end. Now, in the middle, it kind of gets difficult, but it's not a big deal. I want to make sure that one's a little bit closer because you see the continuous grain whenever you get it as close as possible to the original cut. And another thing you want to take into account is whenever you're planing, you want to try and plane or remove material from each board, each section equally, which is why you want to have as much as possible a good face and a good edge. You can do it all 4 sides, of course, but since there's a little bit of a bow in this that I had to plane away, I don't want to have to remove so much off one end if it's really not going to be necessary once I cut it. So what I'm going to do is make my cuts, divide my drawers, drawer fronts up, and then I will thickness each one of them from there. And since I've already got the front done, I'll only be removing from material from the back where it won't be seen. And from there, what I'll do is I'll take each one and I will plane them down to the exact same height, or as close as possible to. But I won't be touching the bottom edge, if at all possible, because that is where everything stays the same. What I will do though is I will cut away and I'll get these close as possible to their finished height. I'll get this as close as possible to the finished height before I cut it up. And then I won't have to remove any material. So it'll be one board with its almost finished height. And like I said, we want to do as little alterations to the show surfaces as possible, because that increases the chance that we'll have inconsistencies or mismatching in our grain continuation. So if anything, again, I don't want to touch this bottom surface, especially once it's cut. I ripped the board, I cleaned up the edge, so now I have a piece that is slightly taller this way than it needs to be, maybe about 1/4 inch at most, maybe less than it needs to be able to fit. I cleaned up this edge, so I have straight, referenced off that, so it's straight and flat as well. And now I'm ready to go ahead and cut the pieces, which is really nerve-wracking. This face here and this face here are really clean and ready to go. They basically don't have to be touched except when I'm finished planing them, and I'll do as little as I can. And I left this side rough. I'll thickness it all later. So yeah, again, this is square, so I'm gonna measure off this and leave myself a little bit of wiggle room on the length. So if we imagine that we're looking at the sideboard, this is the front right of the person who's looking at it. So if you're looking at my sideboard, this is the front right drawer. So we're gonna mark in from this the distance of the front right drawer. So that one is just at 16.5, so I'm gonna mark that out. I left it about 1/8 of an inch long. I'm gonna go measure it. I'm gonna take it up to the sideboard, compare it to the front drawer slot. So can you see I've got a line right there? I'm gonna compare this. Just sit it right in there like that. It should be slightly longer, and it is. I'm gonna bring it up to the top, and it's longer. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut it right on the line, and trim it to length using the shooting board. Not a bad cut. It is mostly square. Across the front and back, it's very square. Top to bottom, it's pretty square as well. So that means I'll have less cleaning up work to do on this, and which is great. Like I was saying before, I'm gonna clean up this end, but I'm gonna remove material from this end. This is the end here that doesn't have to meet up with anything. So that way I'm removing minimal amount of material between the two pieces that need to match across the grain. All right, I've cleaned it up. It looks great. It's gonna be a great drawer front, but it's still a little bit too long. And since, like I said, this is gonna be the outside piece right here, not connecting to any other pieces, like this. It would connect like this. As you can see, the grain is continuous. And it still looks like it's a perfect break. Can you see that? It almost disappears. So, in order to keep this as continuous as possible, like I said, I'm going to remove from the end here. So, that's what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to shave it down quite a bit and then keep test fitting till it actually goes in. Little tight up top, little tight on bottom. I think another pass or two and this is gonna fit. All right, it just goes in at the top and goes in a little bit more on the bottom. I think the bottom is slightly kicked out compared to the top, almost imperceptibly. So that's something I'll keep in mind, but I'm gonna trim the top now until it fits, which means I took that little pencil mark now and I made a gauge and it's just above where it needs to be, and I'm just going to gauge around, get to the line, and then tweak it from there again. Oh, and I'm making sure to reference off the top now because the bottom again is something we're not going to change. So I'm going to take this and make it a really tight fit, and we can remove more later. Alright, so something I'm glad I checked for is the top isn't quite the same level. It's a little bit higher over here, and that's because there's like a little bit of a bow here, an undulation. I wonder if the lid, or I wonder if when I put the top on, if that'll push it down. I don't know, but as for right now, I'm going to fit it to that. This gets, I don't know, maybe, right here it's like, maybe a 16th higher than right here, and then it's back to the same size over there. So, I'm going to keep that in mind as I'm fitting. This is close the way it is though. Alright, I think I've just about got it. Here we go. Oh, it barely goes in. Kick this out a little bit. There it is. That is tight. I don't want to push it too far because I might deform it, or I could, when I pull it out, it might tear off something, I don't know, but that is basically what I'm looking for now. And then I'll sort of leave it there, and well, I've got to protect it. I don't want this to get nicked up, but there you go. That's the that is the first drawer front, nice and fitted, and it gives you a really nice idea of what it's going to look like. And I don't know if you can see that, but there's like a little bit of a a knot with a curve in the grain that was going around it, and it's mirrored up here as well. That's why I chose this piece, not only because it had a huge long run of straight grain, really beautiful straight grain with different colors that was light and dark, but nothing really full of sapwood. But this, since I was looking for a nice long piece of clear wood without any clear knots, without any knots really, I like this. It wasn't a knot, but it showed the effects of the knot, and it mimicked what was down there, reflected it a little bit. So I feel like I've used some of the actual interesting features of the wood while still maintaining a little bit of subtlety as well. Now before I sign off, remember I've still got 2 drawers to fit. I'm actually going to go ahead and fit this second one. I'm going to fit the second one, but I'm going to try and get this as close as possible. This one I left myself a little bit of waste, and I just took it off the one side. This one here, since the idea is that it continues, right? I don't want to have to remove too much from this. So I'm going to get this, basically I'm going to try and take a few more passes on the shooting board. It's very close as it is, just straight off the saw. I took a lot of time on that cut. And I'm going to get it as close as I possibly can. And then, however much I have left over to actually remove, I will remove it equally off both sides. And so that'll mitigate a little bit. If I were to remove, let's say an eighth, let's say I was a whole eighth off, if I were to move it off one side, you might notice it if the grain were to change enough. I don't think this piece has that much, especially right here, has that much change. However, I don't want to risk it. But as you can see, now you know why we want to keep the bottom. This, if we never touch it, it will always give us the same reference, which is the absolute bottom. If I, for example, removed off the top here and then off the bottom here, it wouldn't look like the same piece. And I've actually done that on a project before. I had everything matching up, and then at the end, I removed off the bottom where I had been moving everything else off the top, and I flipped the piece on accident, and it just looks a little off for the perceptive eye. But anyways, yeah, I really hope you enjoyed watching this. I expect to get these done pretty soon. I don't want to leave them too long out and exposed, freshly planed. Thanks for watching. I hope it's been enjoyable and useful, and I'll see you around for the next one.